I find it very amusing to go back to places I have been as a child. Because I go to places and I'm like, I thought this was a huge room, and it's not. It's quite funny actually, because the room is the same. But the way I perceived and the size I was physically, well, if the physical size that we were can influence that which we perceive, don't you think the evolutionary scale of growth on which we are can also do so? What a word meant in my father's teachings to me 30 years ago means a lot different today. And it's going to mean even more different things as I continue to grow, hopefully. Not just age, but mature maybe. So when we talk about Gayatri, we are invoking these different aspects of the divinity that can be perceived by us in our happy moments, when we are challenged, when we are not challenged. Are there such moments when we are not challenged? Maybe. Moments when we need motherly affection, moments when we need fatherly support, moments when we need the Guru's grace, moments when we need to be fierce and valorous, moments when we need our left brain to work so that we can make a bit of money, moments when the right brain needs to work so that there can be a bit of creative appreciation of music, abstract thinking, visualization. These are what are expressed as the Gayatris to different aspects of divinity. It's not that the ancient Indians didn't have dolls to play around and so created 330 million gods. It's just they understood we need different energies at different points in our life. To be able to invoke them, that is what the Gayatri does. The Gayatri mantra, you invoke any mantra for that matter. You invoke, and in the process of invoking an energy, you evoke within yourself that energy. I have been talking about this, so for a few of you, you may have heard me say this earlier, but I say it again. Neurophysiology studies the evoked potentials in our brain, that is the firing of neurons. When we see things, when we hear things, and when we sense things. Sensory evoked potential, auditory evoked potential, visual evoked potential. And you are put in a lab, and there's this equipment, and in front of you they put a television on which you have black and white squares or black and white dots. And you have to sit there looking at this. I do wish we scientists would find something a bit more interesting. But we don't do that. We want to keep everything at the lowest common denominator. Everybody can see these black and white squares. If you had a beautiful painting there, some people may not see it, some people may not like it, and so you come to the lowest common denominator. And you know what you have to hear? Pip, 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 pip. Not some beautiful music, okay? But anyway, that is called standardization. Bring it down to the lowest common denominator so that it makes no sense. And it's supposed to stimulate our brain. Anyway, it does stimulate. And we record these evoked potentials. That which is evoked when you see these black and white dots or boxes and hear this beep sound of different frequencies, or they give you an electrical stimulus that goes dup, dup, dup into your fingers or your toes or nose or wherever they want to test. This very thing is happening when you chant mantras in a more beautiful manner. Imagine I had you sitting here chanting, Veb, Veb, Veb. This is Dr Ananda who's come all the way from India to teach you how to chant mantras, and we go Bip, Bip, Bip. And we shall do concentration, contemplation on these black and white boxes on a screen. When you chant a mantra, you are invoking these energies of the universe Energies that are as real as you and me sitting here, knowing that each other is here. As real. It's just that it's like that child who misses something, and then as you grow up, you say, wow, I never knew my parents were so great. For that baby who looks at the mother and says, a source of food, and maybe a source of a cuddly hug, warmth, but that's all. The baby doesn't know whether you are educated, uneducated, talented, not talented, beautiful, ugly. Okay, beautiful. It doesn't know, the baby doesn't know it. But then as the child grows, hopefully it starts to understand its parents. I have done that. Continue to do it and marvel at the grace of the Almighty that has enabled me to be born to such amazing human beings. To me, the two truly enlightened beings that I can relate to in this incarnation. When you chant the mantra, you are invoking these universal energies, and by the power of the vibration of the chant, you are evoking in your own system, in your own existence, the power. Sounds a bit like Star Wars. May the power be with you. There used to be that He-Man and the Masters of the Universe cartoon series. By the power of Grayskull. Sounds a bit like that, but they were not too off the mark, in fact. There's a lot you can learn from being Jedi. When you evoke these potentials inside you, now I was talking to you of neurophysiological potentials that are at the level of the nerve conduction and the nerve excitation. The neurons fire, opening up like popcorn popping in the microwave or wherever you pop it. Pop, your brain cells open, the evoked potential that is occurring at a spiritual level. And please understand, spiritual is not something out there, it is something deep within you. So when you chant the Gayatri for Ganesha, it's not that, oh Ganesha, come and save me. It is, oh Ganesha, manifest through me. Illumine my existence from inside. Where does the light come from? Inside. Say you want to walk upon a path. Where do you put the light? Not on your face. If you put the light on your face, you don't see anything, you tumble down and fall. You put the light from where you are so that you can see where you are going, what you are doing. And that's why you have these beautiful lights that people put on their foreheads. Those bands. I love it when the students come to the ashram and have one of those and are running around. Truly enlightened beings. Maybe if you wear that long enough, the inner light goes on or something. Maybe. I used to tease Hariharan in Switzerland about his eyes. That light has to come from within. Growth has to happen from within. The door has to open from inside. You cannot force it open. It has to come from inside. And that is why the mantra is not saying, oh Ganesha, come and save me. It says, Prachotayat. May that light from inside, may it shine bright. May the light of Ganesha, the energy of Ganesha, may it shine. And what is this energy? This is the energy that helps us to break through obstacles. Because Newton was quite intelligent, especially after that apple hit his head. He wasn't till that moment, but sometimes a bang on your head can do wonders. A bang on your rear end can do even bigger wonders. Because it gets you moving in the right direction, that is forward. Forward and upward. That is the direction we go. And Ganesha gives you a kick right from back. That's why he sits in the Mooladhara. giving you a kick right from down there and getting you flying up. The latest Superman trailer has that. We are all Superman, Superwoman also, superhuman. Okay? Now I'm fine, safe. Newton made a beautiful statement. He said, everybody, okay, continues to remain in the state of rest or constant motion, which is the same. Whether you are in rest or constant motion, it's basically the same. It makes no difference. Like when you're in the aircraft. Until and unless acted upon by an external force. Now I'm paraphrasing it a bit, but not stretching it too badly, okay? Everybody, you, me, everybody, continues to stay in our state of rest or constant motion, doing nothing, just sort of barely staying alive, until and unless acted upon by an external force. And that force that breaks through inertia is Ganesha. That force that breaks through the tamasika guna. The tamasika is the dull, inert, ignorant, usually arrogant also, aspect of us that just will not do. The donkey nature? Not the good donkey, the bad donkey. The good donkey is nice. Strength, endurance, stamina, hard working. The bad donkey is, I won't do that. Let's see how you make me do it. Children are good at that. Will you please sing? No. Will you do that? No. I won't. And then we say, wow, such willpower. And Swamiji said it's want power, not willpower. Ganesha breaks through that. So when we invoke Om Tat Ganeshaya Vidmahe, Vidmahe, I am coming to know about this energy. Vidya is knowledge. Coming to know about this knowledge, I have become aware of it. Vakratundaya Dhimahi, I am now contemplating. Dhi is the intellect. The inner intellect is the Dhi. And that is why when I call my daughter Divya, I said, fine, if people shorten her name to Dhi, it will still do something good for her. You have to be careful because, and that is why I put the H there, so that it becomes a DHI. And I have people, oh, it's not like that in Sanskrit. I say, yeah, but I put the DHI so that people will say Dhi and not Dai. Imagine people calling you Dai, Dai, Dai. Well, what do you think they are having happened to you? Well, not too long ago we had someone who could have lived much longer if there had been a bit balancing of that name. Well, many other things also, but fine. I am in the UK, so I can remind you of someone in that way. Dhi refers to this inner intellect, the buddhi. The intellect that is of a great discerning ability, like that Hamsa, like the swan. The swan that in the mythical connotation of Hamsa, Paramahamsa, can separate the milk from the water, knows the reality from the unreality, the real from the unreal, can separate that, has the highest power of discernment. Well, few years ago I could have said discrimination and got away with it. Nowadays if I say it, it has such a negative connotation that I have switched from the power of discrimination to the power of discernment. Some of the words which have great meaning have been brought down to the lowest common denominator again. Black and white boxes? Yeah. Madness. So first part of a Gayatri formula is to become aware of something with Mahe. That's why all the Gayatris start off with an Om. And then the first line says Vidmahe, which says, I have come to know about it. The second line says Dhimahi, I am now contemplating, focusing my mind. That amazing sunlight can be focused into a laser beam and do amazing stuff. When your mind, which is greater than anything you can conceptualize through it, mind is the greatest tool. And when you can focus your mind into that laser beam, that is the Dhimahi. And at that point, as a child we have all used our magnifying glass to set fire to a few leaves when it was still allowed to be kids and do that. Nowadays, you'd really have trouble. Trying, a kid tries to do that and parents are in trouble. What you are doing is that you have now focused your mind, that laser beam, and that illumination has started. The fire within, the spark within. That spark within has been ignited, and this energy, Tanno Dhanti, that energy, Prachotayat, may it illumine my very being, may it manifest through me. Let's chant this, invoking this amazing power of Ganesha. Amma so beautifully calls Ganesha the obstacle to all obstacles. He is called Vigneshwara, the Lord of the obstacles, because they cannot do anything. If he says, get out of the way, they have to get out of the way. No choice. And we always invoke Ganesha because human nature is so much of inertia, especially tomorrow morning when you have to get up, And the bell rings, there will be that Tamasika Guna at its peak. 2 minutes more. We all know that, right? And that's where Ganesha comes in. Tad Ganeshaya Vidmahe Tad Ganeshaya Vidmahe Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tanno Dhantihi Prachodayate Om Tad Ganeshaya Vidmahe Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tanno Dhantihi Prachodayate Om Tad Ganeshaya Vidmahe Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tanno Dhantihi Prachodayate Om Similarly, we can also invoke Lakshmi and Saraswati. Lakshmi, the energy of luck, good fortune, prosperity, something the world badly needs. Well, I think what we need is a bit more of sharing of prosperity, and maybe then things will change. More than, just invoking prosperity more and more, maybe it's like flogging a dead horse. I think a bit more of thought needs to come into it. But Lakshmi is the energy, to me, manifesting through our left brain, that brain that is thinking about quantity, the quantitative aspects of life. Money, things, logic, calculation, very analytical aspects. As opposed to Saraswati, and we are going to put both of these Gayatris together so that we are balancing ourselves. Saraswati is very much a right brain energy, an energy that is of abstraction, music, art, literature. an ability to sense the qualitative aspects of our life. And please understand and remember, we need to have a balance between the quantitative and the qualitative, because if only the quantitative exists, at one point you say, I cannot really eat money and there's nothing happening in my life and what's gone wrong. And if you have gone the other side, just the qualitative aspect, you don't have the resources needed to make your life worth living in a decent way. So one has to be careful that it's not that either the quantitative or the qualitative, but it is the quantitative and the qualitative in a balanced harmony. And this balance is what yoga is all about. Yoga is all about finding that golden mean, that path of samatvam, homeostasis, balance, equanimity, walking the razor's edge, as Swamiji would say, the tight rope over the Niagara Falls. It's one of those type of things. And to do that, one needs to balance both these energies. To be able to be quantitative when required, to be able to be qualitative when required, and to have the power to choose which you are going to be at which moment. That is what yoga is looking at. And that is what we are trying to invoke. Now most people in India, all the businessmen, you find them having in the shop Lakshmi, big Lakshmi pictures with from a hand golden coins coming down. I don't think she is too happy to be up there doing that. Can you give me a bit more? Can you give me a bit more? More. And you're like, come on, can't you guys think of anything else? And then you have the other extreme where people get into Saraswati, and then we have had some amazing people like that in the world, these amazing right brain dominant personalities whose lives were just quite a mess and had quite pathetic lives at a different level. Not that they cared about it, but people around them really struggled, and how the families managed, you always wonder with some of these amazing right brain personalities. It's not just left or right, it's both. And to be able to find that balance, we invoke Lakshmi, again the same formula, starting off with an Om, ending with an Om. We start and end with an Om because it creates this beautiful closed circuit of energy that is in tune with the universe. The moment you start and end with the Om, you have made your prayer a universal prayer. You have made it a collective prayer, and the Divine is going to be more likely to grant your prayer when it is a universal collective prayer than if it were just me and only me. And you're like, I often watch people when they go to temples to pray, and it's quite funny actually. Yeah. Oh God, give me. And then there are those people who are, give me, but not her. It's like that old story about God appearing to the Russian farmer and saying, what do you want? And he said, may my neighbor's cow die or something like that. If people have this type of thing happen, it's like, what are we invoking the Divine for? So the moment you put the Om, because of the power of the Om, the Pranava is the mantra of all mantras. Because it is the closest vibration we as a human being can make through our vocal apparatus that resonates with the universal vibration of the Pranava. It's not that the Om is the universal vibration. No, that vibration is so much beyond us as a human being, we can never make it. It's just such an amazing vibration, okay? It's like you cannot hear a dog whistle. Hopefully not. If you hear it, please report to Dr. Allen at the earliest so that we can refer you to an ENT specialist, because it may be a bit of tinnitus happening or something. You are not supposed to see things that bats can see and dolphins can sense, okay? You are not to. As a human being, we have very limited spectrum. Our visual spectrum, our auditory spectrum, our sensory spectrum is very limited. And then on top of that, it's limited even more by the culture in which we grow up, because again it will we put on our own blinkers a bit more. Swamiji used to say the problem with, learning just a language like English is the moment you hear some of the sounds in Sanskrit, you don't even hear them because, they're just out of your whole spectrum. And it takes years and years of developing a sensitivity to start picking them up. And actually it's a very beautiful theory because, you see certain things, you only recognize that which is known. You don't recognize the unknown. It's very difficult. And that is why you could, walk down a street and not see half the people because you don't know them. And then if you know them, you start to see a lot of different people. And it's a matter of that. And that is why when you learn, you always go from the known to the unknown. So you say, okay, fine, here is a sound, and now like this sound, you go to that, and then you can slowly expand. But coming back to where we are, Om, as the sound of the universe, the vibration, and this is the Om that we are making as the Aum, the Pranava, is the closest humanly possible sound that we are making that is resonating with it. It is not that, because that we cannot make, it's beyond us. But this we can do. And the moment you do this, you have set up by the power of intent the possibility of it expanding to that. And this is where what we need to do is that we have to start from where we are. Why do we start on the earthly plane? Because that is where we are now. If you want to jump, and tomorrow morning we'll do a bit of jumping, I think we can fit all of us in this room tomorrow morning. Because some of the years we have split up the batches, but I think we'll fit in tomorrow. And don't worry, I won't have you hitting each other. So, we'll manage. And if necessary, somebody can be along that handrail pathway. And I'll adjust myself back. Poor Jeremy, the fall guy, huh? Come on. Just love him so much. When you want to jump, where do you jump from? You have to jump from where you are. Then you can go up. If you're already here, you cannot jump any place because nothing can happen. And that is why we always come down. That is why the Mooladhara Chakra becomes the take-off point for everything that we do. And again, Ganesha and Mooladhara make sense there. If you want to take off, you have to start from terra firma, where you have a firm grip. So when we utter the Om, we are making an intent known to the universe that here we are, now expanding from the sense of me, my, I, individuality, trying to expand to a universality which is of more of a we and us, all of us. And the moment we do that, the universe says, finally there are a few human beings waking up. Let's do something good for them. And you start to find the bountiful blessings of the universe come down. Because you have opened to it. It's always there. There's beautiful table full of fruits out there. The fruits are there. But you have to know there are fruits and put your hand out, reach, take a fruit and at least get it to your mouth. Otherwise, you sit here, there are no fruits. The universe is so bad. God doesn't like me. It's there. But what has happened is blinkers. Varalakshmi cha vidmahe. I am coming to know of this energy of prosperity that blesses us with the bountiful boons when we are aware of it. Vishnu Patni, she is an energy, a feminine energy of the universe that is wedded to the energy of maintenance, sustenance. That is Vishnu. I often joke that Vishnu is the maintenance engineer. He keeps things going once they have been started off. And maintenance is always a big difficulty any place. In India, we have these amazing buildings built and then 5 years down the line, they are just going to the dogs because nobody maintains it. Because to maintain it, you have to be aware. To maintain it, you need a lot of money. And that is, it's difficult to get grants for maintenance. It's easier to get a grant to start something new. Well, that is why Vishnu and Lakshmi come together, because the maintenance engineer needs to have a good financial consultant supporting him. And so, these energies move together and they come together. So, invoke Lakshmi and you are invoking Vishnu along with it, two in one. We are contemplating this energy and we are invoking that may that energy of prosperity, bountifulness, quantitative aspects of life, may that illumine us from within. And in the Saraswati Gayatri, we are invoking the Veena Gana. She is the one who plays the divine Veena, an instrument that symbolizes the human spinal column, the music of the universe being played through our spinal column and all the neural impulses traveling up and down it. She is Vrincha Patni, she is wedded to the energy of creation. Vrincha is another name of Lord Brahma. Vrincha Patni. Tanno Saraswati, to that embodiment of music, literature, dance, arts, abstract thinking, creativity. We are invoking that energy to manifest through us so that we can become Lakshmi, we can become Saraswati, we can become Ganesha. And that is why I often end with a statement saying that in order to really do what we are doing in yoga, we have to become yoga at one point. It's not an egocentric attainment. It is where you invoke the spirit of yoga to manifest through you every moment of your life. If you want to understand Patanjali, you have to become Patanjali. If you want to understand the Bhagavad Gita, you have to become Krishna. It's not necessary to run around doing what Krishna did or, decide to look like Patanjali by converting half your body into a snake or something like that. It is of letting these energies come through us and guide us from within. Varalakshmi cha vidmahe Varalakshmi cha Vishnu Patni cha dhimahi
Vishnu Patni cha dhimahi
Tanno Lakshmi Prachodayate Varalakshmi cha vidmahe
Varalakshmi cha vidmahe
Vishnu Patni cha dhimahi
Vishnu Patni cha dhimahi
Tanno Lakshmi Prachodayate Varalakshmi cha vidmahe
Varalakshmi cha vidmahe
Vishnu Patni cha dhimahi
Vishnu Patni cha dhimahi
Tanno Lakshmi Prachodayate Veena-ganaya Vidmahe Vrincha Patni cha Dhimahi Tanno Saraswati Prachodayate Veena-ganaya Vidmahe Vrincha Patni cha Dhimahi Tanno Saraswati
Saraswati
Prachodayate Om
Prachodayate Om
Vinaganaya Vidmahe
Vinaganaya Vidmahe
Vinchapatni Cha Dhimahi
Vrinchapatni Cha Dhimahi
Tanno Saraswati
Tanno Saraswati
Prachodayate Om
Prachodayate Om.
The teachings of Maharishi Patanjali are teachings that are truly timeless. I often feel that Patanjali is more relevant today and will be more relevant in time to come than ever. Despite the Yoga Sutras having been composed at least 3,500, 4,000 years ago, coming into the present codification and structure around 2,500, 2,000 years ago. Teachings that enable us to understand this great perspective, a divine perspective given to us by yoga, the yoga darshan. When I use the word darshan, it implies reverence, it implies divinity, it implies something sacred. You say, I had darshan of the divine in the temple, I went to this temple and had a darshan, I went to see my guru and had darshan. You don't say, I had darshan of the latest movie. No. Darshan implies something that is sacred, something that is highly respected, valued, treasured, something that enhances our life in a positive manner, a vision that enhances our life. So the yoga darshan implies a perspective that enhances our life by being able to witness the whole universe in a new dimension. That is the yoga darshan. And the structure of the yoga darshan is basically the teachings of Maharishi Patanjali. It's easy to say, oh, okay, Patanjali, Ashtanga Yoga, that sort of has become the common association, talking of the yama, niyama, building up with the asana, pranayama, moving inward with the pratyahara, and then focusing on that inner light, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. The 8 limbs that, according to Patanjali, are there for ashuddhik shaye, to destroy all the impurities so that the jnana dipti, so that the highest light of wisdom can glow, viveka kyati, and you may have that highest discerning ability to know the difference between the real and the unreal. That is the goal of Ashtanga Yoga, the limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. Ashuddhik shaye, ashuddhi is the impurity, kshaya, to destroy, remove, get rid of. You get rid of the junk. Ashuddhik shaye. Jnana deepti, that jnana, that wisdom, the highest wisdom, that deepti, that light switched on from inside again, not outside. It doesn't happen by somebody knocking you on your head. Though maybe something must have gone on when Newton had that apple. I get back to that. Something happened. Viveka kyati, that viveka kyati, that which allows you to know that fine distinction between the real and the unreal, which is required for kaivalya to occur. That is what the limbs of yoga are there for. Not for a yoga butt, not to reduce your blood pressure and help you sleep better. Well, those are the byproducts of yoga. They are the positive side benefits of yoga. The side effects of modern medical drugs are well known. The side benefits of yoga are what happens as a result. Better health, a better harmony, enhancement of qualitative and quantitative aspects of life. These are byproducts. But the ultimate goal is Kaivalya. As Swamiji would say, health and happiness are your birthrights, claim them. Moksha is your goal, attain it. You ask most people, what's your goal in life? Health and happiness. And that's your birthright. Get back and get it. And, you should have it as a human being, against Swamiji's statement. You live in a happy and healthy universe, then why are you not happy and healthy? If you as a microcosm is nothing but a manifestation of the macrocosm, why are you not happy and healthy? Well, because ignorance, avidya, as Patanjali tells us. He says that is the root source. That is the field on which everything else grows. Avidya kshetram, avidya is the field on which then all these other psychological impediments that block our perspective, they can all flower, and you have this dense Amazon jungle and you don't know where you are going anymore. Forgetting who we are, what we are here for. It would be wonderful if human beings came on this plane of existence with, an attached packet, booklet of instructions or something, an instruction manual or something. Patanjali to me is one of the most amazing human beings to have ever graced this planet. Someone who was a true polymath, someone who was a truly realized being who decided to sort of stay back and help others, someone who left behind amazing teachings that within each one have innumerable seeds. For me, each of Patanjali's sutras is like a seed, is like a bija. And when that is chanted with consciousness and awareness, he says, tadartha bhavanam, when you utter the mantra, it should be with knowing the meaning and with feeling. To chant a mantra with meaning and feeling, it rhymes a bit, even in English. Tadartha bhavanam. That is how he says, tad japaha. The japa that is done of the Om, the Pranava. He says, its japa should be done with tadartha bhavanam, knowing the meaning and with feeling. The Lingashtakam has a beautiful verse when we talk about Shiva. Bhavaya bhakti praveshita lingam, it says, bhava and bhakti. Both should be there. There should be emotion and devotion. When we chant the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, they take on a new life. When you chant it, it comes alive as compared to it being in a book, written down. The moment you chant it, you have now set into motion the invocation, evocation cycle. That is why we chant. The moment you chant it, you have set out the intent and you have made the intent an active principle. It is not just, I want to do, but you have actually done it. And then when you chant, you cannot be in the past or in the future, you are in the now. When you are chanting, you are chanting in the present moment. That is why we chant. Not because, okay, what else to do to keep all of them busy, let's chant. No. Oh, it's nice to chant. No. It is because by being in the moment, as you chant in the moment, your thought, word and deed are getting unified. Your mind is getting focused like that laser beam, and bingo, you hit the target. Otherwise, what happens is that someone can be talking about the Yoga Sutras and someone can be reading them while thinking of pizzas and ice creams and, not that they are bad to think about, okay, but there's a time for everything. Patanjali gives us yoga to purify the mind. Essentially, that is what yoga is as far as Patanjali goes. It is to purify the mind so that you are as clear as a crystal, and then that which you manifest as a reflection, not really a reflection, because reflection implies the opposite. When you look in a mirror, the right looks like the left, and you have this mirror image. It is more than that. And projection again doesn't really carry. I'm still trying to find a word. It's not reflection, it's not projection. Closest is manifestation. That we are such a pure vehicle that we have attained the purity of the universe itself, and at that point, Kaivalya. As long as that impurities are there, we are different than the highest. The Purusha, that pure consciousness that lies behind all manifestation. We are caught up in the Prakriti, the manifestation, all the gunas of the tamas, the gunas of the raja, the sattva, either the dull, ignorant, inert, or the dynamic, constantly moving, or that which is pure, but still not absolutely pure as the Purusha is. It is still caught because it is still part of the guna. As long as you are part of the guna, Kaivalya is not possible. Which gives me a question that as a human being, in a human body, is it possible to attain Kaivalya? And I've argued with a lot of my friends on that, but I believe no. That you can be ready for Kaivalya, but you have to leave the body for Kaivalya, because the body is still governed by the laws of nature, and for Kaivalya you have to go beyond that. But you can be ready for it. And that is why the concept that when the Guru leaves the body, that they have attained that, and so we call it Mahasamadhi. We don't say the Guru died. And the Guru attained Mahasamadhi. That is that all they had to do was leave the body to make that jump. That is the only thing holding them back. And there are different layers of Samadhi. It's not that, you're not going to be a better person on, what's the use of doing it if I'm only going to get my ice cream and I die? It's not something like that. You are constantly having these elevated levels of consciousness, and definitely it's quite a different place, but still it's not Kaivalya, which is the final goal according to Patanjali. Now Patanjali not only gives us yoga for the mind, he gives us medicine for the body. Now of course it was Ayurveda in those days. Malam Sharira, this body that is a total junkyard. Malam Sharira, that is actually what I'm giving you very contemporary translations of these terms. The junkyard that is this human body. Malam Sharira. And I'm being very kind. Mala refers to the excrement that we as human beings let out of the body. And the body is termed that. The junkyard that is the human body needs to be purified, and for that he has given us medicine. Malam sharirasya, sharira is the body. Vaidya is medicine. Vaidya kena. Now when we purify the mind and we purify the body, something else needs to be purified, and that is our communicative skills. And that is why when we invoke Patanjali, We say yogena chittasya. Yoga for the chitta. Now here it refers to all the aspects of the mind. Yogena chittasya padena vacham. Vacha means the communication which is essentially an oral communication for the speech. Giving us the grammar, the structure to purify the speech. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena. And then it is said, Yopakarotam, such has been given to us. Pravaram Muninam, he is the most exalted of the seers. Muni is a seer, a rishi, a sage, a master, maestro. Pravaram Muninam, one of the most exalted of the sages. Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi. We are saluting with our arms folded together in respect, in gratitude, in reverence, in appreciation, thankfulness. Very beautiful verse. Just sit quietly as I chant this. Tomorrow I will write it out on the board so that you can write it down and add it to your vocabulary. For me, a very beautiful verse that reminds us of an astonishing human being. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidya kena yopakarotam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjalir arnatosmi yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarotam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarotam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjalir arnatosmi. The first verse of the Yoga Sutras, and please you can take the Xerox copies that you should have there. These are with gratitude and courtesy of Sri Deshikachar, who along with his son have been an inspiration in spreading the message of the Yoga Sutras for me. And he had put out this chanting notation where if you look at the verses, you'll see that it is given first in Sanskrit and then there's the English transliteration below it. And you will see that there are three different types of notations given. One is a line under the letter. For example, in the first sutra, under the A you have a line beneath it, which means that it is the note below the normal note. So if it doesn't have a line any place, it means it's the normal note, the bass note. For example, sa, that is the bass note. Now if it has the line beneath it, it means it is the note below, so it's a ne, sa, ne, sa. You have that note below. And if it has a vertical line above the letter, it is a note to be above. So it is then is the re. So you have the sa, ne, sa, re, sa, ne, sa. Basically it is a three-note pattern that is used, which is the Vedic pattern of chanting. When we chant the Vedas, Brahmarpanam Brahmavir Brahmagno Brahmanahutam. It is basically, it will be this oscillation. It's not 7 or 8 notes, but it's just usually 3 notes. And then there are some points where we expand the note. When it comes, I will tell you. And the first page gives you a bit of explanation on that, where they call the Swarita, which is the absence of any mark, the bass note. Udata, which is the note where you go up, and that is the vertical line over the syllable. Anudata, when there is a horizontal line beneath the syllable or the letter, implying that you come down. And Nigada, which is an extended note, and there are not many of them, so it is like when we go la, where there's that and you go up and then you expand it. But there's just 1 or 2 of those examples, so you don't worry about that. Basically, we are going to be dealing with just the primary reference note, the note below, the note above. And what we'll do is that we will chant the first 6, and then I will explain them. Hopefully it won't go too long, and then try a few more, because as I said, I think there are about 40 of the sutras in the pages I gave you. And I've kept it because up to that point there's a few things which I felt I would like to explain today, tomorrow, hopefully. It takes me 4 months to get through most of this in the 6-month course. And here in 2 evenings I'm trying to do a bit of it, so I'm being a very optimistic, happy person here. Anyway, we will chant the first 6, and you can just follow as I chant. I'll keep it as small bits so that you can tune into it. I just thought, all of you have made such an effort to be here. I really appreciate it, and I thought I should give you something special, and hence yesterday we said, okay, I have this in my bag, let's do it. Atha Yoganu Shasanam Atha Yoganu Shasanam Yogaha Chittavritti Nirodha Yogaha Chittavritti Nirodha Tadha Vrashtu Swarupe Avasthanam Tadha Vrashtu Swarupe Avasthanam Vritti Sarupyam
sarupyam
itaratra
itaratra
vritti
vritti
sarupyam
sarupyam
itaratra
itaratra
vrittayah
vrittayah
panchatayah
panchatayah
kleshta
kleshta
kleshtaah
kleshtaah
vrittayah
vrittayah
panchatayah
panchatayah
kleshta
kleshta
kleshtaah
kleshtaah
pramana
pramana
viparyaya
viparyaya
vikalpa
vikalpa
nidra
nidra
smritayah
smritayah
pramana
pramana
viparyaya
viparyaya
vikalpa
vikalpa
nidra
nidra
smritayah
smritayah
pratyaksha
pratyaksha
anumana
anumana
agama
agama
prama
prama
nani
nani
pratyaksha
pratyaksha
anumana
anumana
agama
agama
pramanani
pramanani
viparyayo
viparyayo
mithya
mithya
jnanam
jnanam
atadrupa
atadrupa
pratishtam
pratishtam
viparyayo
viparyayo
mithya jnanam
mithya jnanam
atadrupa
atadrupa
pratishtam
pratishtam
shabda
shabda
jnananu
jnananu
pati
pati
vastu shunyo
vastu shunyo
vikalpah
vikalpah
shabda
shabda
jnananu
jnananu
pati
pati
vastu shunyo
vastu shunyo
vikalpah
vikalpah
abhava
abhava
pratyayalambana
pratyayalambana
tamo
tamo
vrittir
vrittir
nidra
nidra
abhava
abhava
pratyayalambana
pratyayalambana
tamo vrittir
tamo vrittir
nidra
nidra
anubhuta
anubhuta
vishaya
vishaya
asampramoshah
asampramoshah
smritihi
smritihi
anubhuta
anubhuta
vishaya
vishaya
asampramoshah
pramoshah
smritihi
smritihi
abhyasa
abhyasa
vairagyabhyam
vairagyabhyam
tannirodhah
tannirodhah
abhyasa
abhyasa
vairagyabhyam
vairagyabhyam
tannirodhah
tannirodhah
tatra
tatra
stitau
stitau
yatno
yatno
vyasah
vyasah
tatra stitau
tatra stitau
yatno vyasah
yatno vyasah
satu
satu
dirghakala
dirghakala
nairantarya
nairantarya
satkara
satkara
adara
adara
asevito
asevito
dhrida
drida
bhumihi
bhumihi
satu
satu
dirghakala
dirghakala
nairantarya
nairantarya
satkara
satkara
adara
adara
Asevito
Asevito
Dridabhumihi
Dridabhumihi
Dhrishta
Krishta
Nushravika
Nushravika
Vishaya
Vishaya
Vitrishnasya
Vitrashnasya
Vashikara
Vashikara
Samya
Samya
Vairagyam
Vairagyam
Dhrishta
Drashta
Nushravika
Nushravika
Dhrishta Nushravika
Drishta Nushravika
Vishaya
Vishaya
Vitrishnasya
Vitrashnasya
Vashikara Samya
Vashikara Samya
Vairagyam
Vairagyam
Tatparam
Tatparam
Purusha
Purusha
Jyate
Yate
Guna
Guna
Vaithrishnyam
Vaitrishyam
Tatparam
Tatparam
Purusha Jyate
Purusha Yate
Guna
Guna
Vaithrishnyam
Vaitrishyam
Om. I told you 6, but then we got up to 16. You see, I'm a bit naughty at times. If I said 16, you said, oh, no, not so. Huh? Well, it's just that I was trying to find a certain point where I could break it up today so that I could discuss this, and at the end, tonight before we end, we'll chant this again. But this pattern of chanting is a pattern that takes these teachings back to the timeless period that they started and were passed on through the mouth of the teacher to the student's ear, and then from the student's mouth to their student's ear, and this timeless tradition. So you tap into it when you chant. When we look at these verses, and I thought it would be good to use this as the framework of what we discussed tonight. The very first verse of the Yoga Sutra, called the Samadhi Pada, this section of the Yoga Sutra, the first of 4 sections, that deals with the concept of Samadhi, which is basically a state where we are at par with the highest, Sama-adi, in equilibrium, equanimity with the highest. And in the context of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, the Samadhi is a state where we are at our highest best. So Samadhi can be taken to be our best possible manifestation of our potential. The best actualization, as Abraham Maslow puts it, self-actualization. That is what we are working towards, that self-actualization to the best possible level we can attain can be said to be Samadhi in this context. Normally when we talk of Samadhi, we talk of that amazing experience which is more, in Patanjali's view, a Kaivalya than the Samadhi. For him, Samadhi has so many layers that you have the first layer, the second layer, the third layer. It's like climbing the peaks of the mountains. You first see the peak and you say, wow, and you start climbing, you say, wow, I'm getting to this peak. You get there and you realize there are another few peaks. You climb that and you find there's one more. It's quite a bit disheartening when you're a young kid climbing up Mount Arunachala, Tirunamalai as a 9-year-old. I remember that experience. And wow, this is the top. Yeah, we are getting close to it. Wow, they said it will take 3 hours. It's not been too long and we are here. And then, one more. I think I counted 7 peaks that time before we got to the actual peak. It's something like that. The Samadhi, there are like these 7 different peaks before you really get to the peak. But each one is important. Each one is a stepping stone to your success. Each one is a milestone along your path of progress, spiritual progress, towards that point of liberation. So the Samadhi Pada starts off with the very first sutra for me, which gives us a very important meaning of yoga, and that is Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Now we begin the observance of yoga. This is often translated as now we begin the study of yoga. Yes, let's put yoga on an academic path. We study yoga and it remains in the library and we can do what we want. Now, you have to start observing the principles of yoga in your life. You start observing it and experiencing it. Anushashanam. The word anusashanam is to anusthana. Anusthana means to experience and observe it in your life. It is not something you study and you are different. No. The moment you start the study of yoga, you and yoga, your life and yoga are one. That is the concept that is starting off. When the word atha is used, it is a very auspicious way to start. It says, now we start. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. In this moment, we begin the observance of the principles of yoga in our life. In this moment, we have brought yoga into our life. That is what is meant. It's not that now we begin the study of yoga. When I read, it may be just a matter of language, okay? But for me, I read a lot into language because I've often been talking about some of these concepts with regard to words that people choose to use, and you are like, this is my issue with Einstein. When he talked about religion and science, one being lame without the other and one being blind without the other. And I'm like, why did he have to say religion and why didn't he use the word spirituality? For me, it's a big question, and maybe in his mind both were the same. But somehow for me, why did he limit it to religion? Because religion limits it. Spirituality is unlimited. Religion limited. LTD. I forgot. Religion private limited. It doesn't matter what it is. Organized religion is the same. Private limited. It doesn't matter what it is. Spirituality, universal unlimited. Not private. Some of these terms for me, it's a big struggle because, when you talk about spirituality, you are talking about something that you experience. I was quoting something from Deepak Chopra yesterday. All he's done is repackaged most of the old Indian grandma stuff. But anyway, he's done it in a nice way. But there was a statement someone had tagged me on Facebook. And it was, what was it? Religion is all about someone else's experience. Spirituality is all about your experience. And I just loved it. Because that is what yoga is all about. It's about your experiences, not... And these are all guiding lights. They are guiding points and they are like your GPS system. It's something like that. But you don't sit with your GPS saying, I have gone there, I have gone there. No. The GPS is there so that you go there. And it's people, people understand when I say, oh no, you don't sit at home with your GPS saying, yeah, now I'm in London, now I'm in London. You don't do that, okay? But they do the same thing in the spirit. And now we begin the study of yoga. Yeah. Put yoga on its pedestal, put it in a cupboard, frame it with a golden frame, like we saw in the museum yesterday. The painting is so small and the frame is so big. Wonderful. I said, all I'm seeing is the frame, not the painting. Put yoga in that golden frame and, put neon signs around it so that you miss the whole aspect of yoga, because you have begun to study it as if it's something else, like you study mathematics and physics and chemistry, and it's out there and I have nothing to do with. For me, my study of medicine was very beautiful because I took the concepts of yoga into medicine when I studied medicine. I approached medicine as if I was approaching it through yoga and medicine became unlimited for me. It depends on how you approach it. Very different than most of my classmates anyway. In fact, the very first day of joining medical school, I remember lying in my bed with all the skeletal bones, real skeletal bones, okay, not artificial ones, around me on my bed, and they stayed with me the first 18 months. I used to sleep with those bones in my bed. I don't know who that human being was, but anyway. Got to know those bones as well as I knew my bones. Not something you study and throw out. You give respect. The body we were dissecting, a real human body that we were dissecting, the way people used to play with these dead bodies, forgetting that it was a human being who was lying in front of you. Okay, the spirit may have moved on, but that was the vehicle of that spirit. No respect, no gratitude. Let's poke and see what happens. The reverence I had for that body that I dissected. Recently, one of my friends, I posted a photo of all of us standing around the table with this body. And he said, well, we got through our dissection thanks to Ananda who did it all for us. Because, it's not something you study and throw outside. It's something you apply in you. And I think maybe that made a big difference for me. The way I approach, even how I deal with my patients. When we approach yoga with reverence and when we take it into every moment of our life, when we begin to observe the principle, not observe as observe, look at, but observe means the observance of them in our life as ethical codes, as principles by which we live every moment awareness, then yoga comes alive. People talk about doing yoga, you be yoga. It is about being yoga. Doesn't really sound nice to say yoga doing you. It doesn't really have, otherwise, I would say that, but it doesn't really have the ring that I want. It's not about doing yoga, it's about being yoga. And it's not an ego trip. Oh, now I'm yoga. It's like, now I'm God, so I'm going to shoot all of you. Eesh. What type of Atha Yoga Anushasanam? We begin living yoga. And then the very next verse, I often say Patanjali would never make it as a successful author. First of all, two things. One, the very second sutra, he gives the whole game away. You keep it to the end, okay? It's always so wonderful to have Alan here. For so many reasons. The very fact that you take me seriously, despite knowing me at an age I was climbing trees, that gives something to my heart. But you know what? A couple of years back I think it was my first visit down to Cornwall, I happened to read a very beautiful book. I think you classify it as a novel. Would it be a novel? Cornwall Cremation. And if you go on my Facebook page, you'll find that is my favorite book. Highly recommended reading. Okay. It's a beautiful book because having worked in Indian villages without anything except your bare clinical skills, I think you really then appreciate that even more and the life that comes into it. Very beautiful book from first page to last page. The other book, I happen to read good books whenever I'm staying with them. I read Life of Pi overnight. I'm sure you all know it is supposed to have taken place a bit in Pondicherry. Of course, if you expect Pondicherry to look like that, you might feel a rude shock because two of my students were in that dance class that they have a small scene there. But Patanjali gives the game away in the very second sutra. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Finished. Don't read the rest. Huh? The second reason he would never make it as a good author is that any author worth the salt, having material which is worth 196 volumes, sequels, puts it all into 196 short verses and just gives it to you in a booklet. Not even a book. Not even an encyclopedic volume. Each one of the sutras could be a book in its own right. Seriously, he's a guy who, as my wife says, doesn't know how to survive in today's world. She often tells me that. You don't know how to survive in this world. It doesn't come out that way in Tamil, it's a bit different. It's like, you're too much of a utopian concept in your head. It's more of that. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Now this sutra, every yoga teacher, yoga student worth the salt knows it. Every book says whatever they want. Yoga is the stilling of the fluctuations of the mind stuff. Quietening the mind. It all sounds so nice. Huh? Why should I do that? Nice fluctuations, nice. And then Swamiji came along and he said, Yoga is the cessation of the whirlpools of your subconscious mind. And I go, I better get that done. Huh? That's the difference. Yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind stuff. The waveforms are still, it is something, why should I do it? And then, these whirlpools of the subconscious, unconscious mind. Okay. I often say, I have actually put Sangeeta in charge of that in Italy. We're going to make a horror movie called the Yoga Sutras. It will have all of this, all the chitta vritti is ready to catch you. You're just walking along this floor. I'm sorry to scare you in case you have nightmares tonight, but walking along this wooden floor, and then suddenly the chitta vritti, the hands come up and catch your feet and drag you down, and you have to stop those things. Okay. When you understand that a whirlpool, how do you get into the whirlpool? Not in the bottom. You start off at the edge, just a little bit of a pull. Just a little bit of a pull. Like people standing outside in Dubai, they do a lot of that in the airport. Please come and have lunch. Somebody standing outside. This is our menu. And they're like, no, I'm not going in there. Just that first, you don't even feel it. The edge of the whirlpool. You don't really even feel it. And before you know it, that's what it's like. The unconscious, and it's not the conscious mind. The conscious mind you can deal with. The conscious mind is child's play. It's the unconscious subconscious mind which just hits you below the belt. It's the one who knows when you are the most weak. It knows all your weaknesses. It's done its amazing market research. It knows how to get you. It knows at which point it can just catch you. And before you know it, something that starts off as cutting your nails and, next thing you know is your whole body's gone. That is the chitta vritti. And to my knowledge, no other authority other than Swamiji has given it this dimension. It's all fluctuations of the mind, and you're like, okay, why should I even stop it? It doesn't. But then when you realize what it can do to you, it just starts off, and before you know it, you're gone. And it's too late. Very difficult to save a person once they're right at the bottom of that. Huh? That is the yoga chitta vritti nirodha, cessation of that. And what does he say? If you are able to seize, stop, control, get through these whirlpools, and if clarity is there, Clarity cannot be there when the waves are coming and going and when everything is mucked up. No. You cannot see anything because you have mucked it up. You, me, us, we have mucked up our consciousness to such a level we cannot see anything. And he says, if clarity occurs, tadadvashtu, at that point the seer, the perceiver, the one who is experiencing swarupe avasthanam, is established in their essential nature. You understand who you are when clarity is there. But if you have mucked it up with all your identity cards and credit cards and addresses and Facebook IDs and Google Plus and all that, I enjoy my Facebook, okay? It's my extended satsanga. For continuation on satsanga, log on to Facebook. Seriously. But what we do is that all of this comes and just, it's like going into, poor Kalavati, she's been shifting houses. And so there's one room in a house where she just dumped everything. Now today we decided to go and try to find something in that room. Quite difficult. Now luckily, she has quite a bit of consciousness and able to know where things are, but it could be hell. And that's what people's minds are like.
Lloyd's side is hell.
Okay, fine. You just get into this room and everything is every place and you don't know where anything is. Well, we all have that happen. When you want to look for something, you'll find everything but that thing. Everything but that thing. Because, we have just jumbled up everything. And he says, when the clarity occurs, you can see. And what do you see? Your own essential nature. Health and happiness are your birthright. You, the microcosm, are a manifestation of the macrocosm. The universe is a happy and healthy universe. All that starts to make sense. Not just intellectual sense. You start to experience it at that point. And he says, if not, beautiful, the way Patanjali puts this. If not, vritti sarupya mitarata, you start to identify with all of these whirlpools. You start to identify with your credit card and your bank account and all your social status and your educational status and all these degrees you have put behind your name. Some of my friends tease me, they say, only few Z and W is missing. And they say, you put all these degrees with all these letters, where's the Z and W? I said, okay, I'll find a degree which has that. You start to identify with all of this nonsense. You have made it up. I think last night I was telling them about the old advertisement for 7-Up, the cool drink. And Fido, this cartoon character with a funny hairdo. Have I lost you? Okay, fine. I'm like, suddenly there's pin drop silence. I'm like, am I on a different planet? Amma and I we have this joke. In fact, just before I left, a few days before I left, I went into Amma's room and I just said, both of us picked the wrong planet. There are days you really feel that you just picked the wrong planet. Hey, fine. Fido is this funny cartoon character. It's just a line drawing basically, and he has this funny hairdo. He used to be the logo for the 7-Up lemon drink or whatever. And there's this cartoon where there's this blank screen and this guy comes onto screen and he's scratching his head and feeling very confused. A lot of question marks and exclamation marks and what to do like that. And suddenly he gets an idea. The bulb goes on in the cartoons. Takes out a pencil and draws a table and chair and sits down and is now happy. It's a very beautiful moment. Now he knows where he is, what he is doing. Up to that time it was a blank screen. Most of us are like that. We have an identity crisis. The real identity crisis is answered when you understand, I am that I am. That the Vedic literature tells us, the Mahavakyam, Tattvamasi, thou art that. Aham Brahmasmi, I am the highest universal Prajnanam Brahmam, the highest wisdom that is within me is the universal wisdom. Tattvamasi, Ayamatma Brahman. My Atma, my spirit is that of the highest universal spirit. But you know what we do? Who are you? I am so and so, son of so and so, daughter of so and so, husband of so and so, father of so and so, mother of so and so, grandfather, grandmother of so and so, cousin of so and so. I was telling Lloyd last night, I just saw a very beautiful thing on Facebook from one of my cousins who's now become a professional baseball star in the USA. A nice photo of this guy with his baseball bat. Whatever you call it, bat? Yeah. You know, we identify with all of this, and then in all of this, we lose track of who we really are. Time for a story. You know, many thousands of years ago, there's a point where Lord Vishnu, the conserver, maintenance engineer, that guy, he and his closest disciple, Narada. Now, Narada is the divine bard who goes around singing, Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Narayanaya. And so he thinks, he's a great devotee, and I always sing your name, and so, I am the greatest devotee, and have you ever seen a better devotee than me? And shouldn't you give me an Oscar award for being the best devotee or something like that? And Vishnu sometimes gets really put off with this devotee, He thinks too much of himself. So they're going along, and this is going on, and Vishnu is just like, Narada's like, I am beyond all illusion, I am beyond Maya, and I am here, and isn't this wonderful that I have decided to be your disciple? You have these people. I'm so enlightened, but I'm going to be your disciple. Like, thank God, no, please. It's like, we get inquiries in the ashram. I have studied so-and-so, and I'm studying so-and-so, and I have done this and that, and I think I should come and be a student of yours. We are like, please, no. I'll give you the address of 10 other ashrams that you can go to. Please, no. I'd rather have someone who says, I don't even know the spelling of yoga. Welcome. Welcome. Because it's so tough to unlearn. Unlearning is harder than learning. Very hard. Anyway, so Narada is going on and on, like, I'm going on and on now. And Vishnu gets really tired of him, like you are getting tired of me. But what Vishnu does is, you cannot keep me quiet, but Vishnu can keep Narada quiet. That's the difference. And he says, Narada, I'm feeling a bit thirsty. He said, no problem. He said, can you get me some water? Narada says, well, there's a well over there in that corner. He says, I'll go and get it. So, Vishnu's waiting there. Narada goes down to this well, and when he gets to the well, he sees all these beautiful girls, in the old Indian style, putting the bucket into the well and, pulling it up with the rope and taking it and pouring the water into the beautiful bronze, brass pots and clay pots. And, the idea is to get some water and take it back to Vishnu. Now the problem is we men have a major issue. The moment we see a beautiful woman, our brains stop functioning. It's part of biology. You cannot do much about it. So Narada sees this beautiful girl, and the next thing is like he forgets all about Vishnu and water, and it's like follows her home. And when he gets home, he sees her father. The father says, "Who's this guy?" And, like one of the modern musicians, loose hair with all dangling every place, and a guitar across the side and a bit unkempt. And he's like, and he says, "Sir, can I marry your daughter?" I said, "Well, if you clean yourself up, maybe, and throw away that guitar and get a job or something." Well, to cut a long story short, they get married. Narada settles down. They have a couple of children, a dozen children maybe. Let's keep it. The father-in-law dies, and he takes over the father-in-law's business, and is taking care of everything and has expanded the business, and all of this is going on and on and on and on and on. And one day there's a huge flood, and everything is washed away. Everything. The house, the wife, the children, the chickens, the ducks, what the ducks washed away, float away. Okay, ducks float away. The chickens are washed away. The ducks float away. Okay. I'm choosing my words very carefully. And now that's caught in this is, oh my God, God is so bad to me. This is terrible. I've lost everything, and I don't even have my insurance cover. And it's one of the things is like one of these moments of abject, depression. And suddenly he hears a voice, Narada, where's my water? And suddenly everything has disappeared. And he and Vishnu are standing there, and Vishnu is like, Narada, where's my water? It is all a play of illusion, a play of Maya. This is a very good story because we are like that, we get caught up with our identification with stuff, and we forget the purpose we are here, we forget our essential nature, who we are, and it's like my credit card and my bank statement and my car and my, and Maya. That's what it's all, illusion. Just like Narada. And that is what Patanjali says, vritti sarupyam mitavatra. You get caught up in all of these whirlpools. You have forgotten yourself. You are not seeing yourself because you are so caught up with these whirlpools of the subconscious, unconscious mind that are just throwing you from this corner to that corner. They are playing ball with you, in fact. Like a volleyball being tossed across or a basketball from corner to corner. But you don't know it. And so you think, here I am, this ball, going from right to left and left to right. And now I'm kicked by Messi. Yeah, we are a mess. And he says these vrittis, now these first 4 sutras basically for me, everything about yoga really is just there in these first 4. Yoga is something to be lived, something to be experienced, something to be observed in one's life every moment, in the now. It is the controlling of these whirlpools, and if we have controlled it, we are going to know ourselves. If not, we are going to be caught up in everything. Finished. Finito. 4 sutras, and he's given us the whole message. Amazing. You could just sit and contemplate on these for your whole life because everything is there. And then he goes a bit further. He says, okay, fine, now that I have you caught here, the 5 forms of these whirlpools are there. He says, vrittayaha, the vrittis are panchatayaha, 5 types. Pancha is 5. Panchakshara, you are singing. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, without the Om. Namah Shivaya, the 5 syllables of Shiva. The principle of change, transformation, evolutionary growth, that is Shiva. The number 5 exemplifies that. A dynamic number. And that's why my birthday cake the other day had 5 candles on it. Not that I was 5 years of age, but sometimes I think it would be nice to be 5 again. But my son enjoyed his being 5. He says these can be painful or painless. Klishta, aklishta. They may be painful, they may be painless. Sometimes it hurts, sometimes it doesn't hurt. But they are still these whirlpools, pulling you away from your balanced state of equanimity. Pramana viparyaya vikalpa nidra smritayaha, he says. Pramana, the first one is cognition. It is one of the vrittis. Viparyaya, misconception. Vikalpa, imagination. Nidra, stupor, sleep. Smriti, memory. The 5 waveforms, the 5 whirlpools, the 5 fluctuations, the 5 modifications, the 5 things that mess up your perception. Cognition, misconception, imagination, a stuporous sleep, fugue. The word I think is fugue, right? Many people don't seem to know that word. I always find it surprising. Because it sort of hits that nidra. It's not just sleep. It is, people just like zombie-like, walking around in a daze. Fugue. And smriti, memory. Once upon a time, and gone. We have forgotten where we are, what we are doing. It's so often we get caught up in these memories. And what it does, the memory is adaptable memory. This is the amazing part. It starts to become what we want it to become. Yeah, I used to be so beautiful. And you're like, okay, take a few of those old photos and look at this. But I was the best student in my class. And then you have an alumni get together and you realize, no, you were not. It's just amazing what it does. Or it can be the other way. I was the worst. I was the ugliest in my family. And then you look at the old photos and you realize, well, not really. We have this. It can go both ways, painful or not painful. He doesn't say pleasure, he says painful or not painful. It's a very clever use of words by Patanjali. And he says, what is this cognition? He says, cognition, pramana, in verse 7, he says, can be of three types. You can cognize either directly, pratyaksha. I am cognizing that all of you are sitting here and, well, you're all awake. That is pratyaksha. Anumana is inference. I start to see a few of you yawning. I say, well, it's time to end because it's getting late. That is inference. Anumana. Agama is reliable testimony. And that is, Kalavati told me, well, if you go beyond 9:30, usually people here are asleep. And I trust her. So, you didn't you? Okay, fine. I thought you had said so. Adaptable memory?
I said,
yes.
Just keep talking as long as you like.
Yeah, actually she said that. But then, my adaptable, adjustable memory quirk jumped in and changed it. Direct perception, inference, and reliable testimony. Reliable testimony means that you have to trust the source. And I really have struggled a lot with the courts that look at eyewitness. And I'm like, you take 10 people and ask them about an event and you'll have 10 different stories. And how do they ever get anything straight? It's a big struggle for me because it's a big challenge, because what do people perceive? You perceive things not as they are, but as you are. A very beautiful statement to remember. We perceive as we are, not as that which we perceive is. And it's very important. And I've seen a lot of that on Indian roads when people have accidents. It's amazing. Viparyaya mithya jnanam atadrupa pradishtam. He says in the next one, viparyaya, misconception, is false knowledge. Mithya jnanam. It is false knowledge. But it is not based on the reality of the form. It is like looking at the classic story, and it's beaten black and blue, quoted so many times. Looking at a rope and thinking it to be a snake is said to be viparyaya. Now for me, the classic in modern times, the contemporary definition of it is to look at human beings and think they are human. That is the biggest viparyaya today. Just because people dress like human beings and look like they are human beings and walk on two legs, you expect them to be human. And it's just amazing the animals that walk the world today in the guise of human. They used to talk about wolves and what's that? Wolf in sheep's clothing. You have all these crazy creatures in human clothing today. And then please don't think I'm being negative about it. I'm just trying to be realistic about the world we live in. And you don't believe me? Look at the newspapers. Just see what we humans are doing to each other, and no true human being could do any of the things that you find in these newspapers. It's madness. Anyway, enough of that. Viparyaya, he says, is mithya jnanam, false knowledge that is not based on the reality of the form, but you have misconceived and misunderstood it, misinterpreted it. And he says, then the next one, imagination, is Shabda Jnananupati. It has a term. You are able to describe something, you are able to give name to something, but Vastu Shunyo, it doesn't exist in reality. And that is the difference. Imagination has no existence in reality, but it has a term, whereas misconception, there is something that exists and you have misunderstood it. So there's a slight difference between misconception and imagination. In that imagination, there's nothing in reality there. And I often wondered with movies like Avatar, we enjoy it, but does it fall under misconception or does it fall under imagination? In that, there is a structure, but then they create something which is not really the structure. You look at what those people look like while they were filming, nothing like what the film looked like. I hope you understand what I'm saying. The enhancement that is done by computer graphics. Now, is there a reality there that is being misunderstood in a pleasant way? Or is it imagination without reality? It's just a thought. I'm not looking for an answer here, and I'm not giving you an answer. But I've been struggling with that because I was telling Kalavati, watching the trailer of the new Superman movie, which looks wonderful. Just amazing what can be done today with computers as opposed to in the early 80s when the first Superman movie came out and I dragged Swamiji with me to watch it. So Swamiji had to watch Superman with me. Superman 1 was with Swamiji, 2 and 3 with Amma, I think. And of course, I'll never forget Amma watching Jurassic Park with me. Poor Amma. Seriously. Scared her a lot. But there was Christopher Reeve who became the real Superman after his accident. For me, what he attained after he became a quadriplegic in that pathetic, tragic horse accident, I think he achieved much more after that than what he did through his movies and acting. But he was just hanging by wires there, and they had blacked out the wires and blue screen and green screen, and you thought he was flying. For the first time, you had a human being flying on screen. But then you compare it with this, that is, nothing. Very amateur comparatively, but at that time it was a great thing. Abhava pratyayalambana tamo vritti nidra. Nidra, that is the stupor, fugue, sleep, is a tamo vritti. It is a very dull, inert type of vritti where it sort of doesn't have support. See, the other vrittis, cognition, misconception, imagination, have a support, but sleep doesn't really, it's like the absence of a support. Now you can say there are a different form of support, but he classifies it as opposed to the sort of more conscious vrittis as opposed to a more unconscious vritti. Though they are all basically subconscious, unconscious, and there's an element of a bit of consciousness also coming in. But as I said earlier, the conscious part of the vritti is something you can deal with. You can close your eyes. You can say, okay, I'm not going to think that, I'm not going to see this. But it's the unconscious, subconscious one that hits you, just when you're not expecting. It's like all these horror movies where, there's that silence and something bad is going to happen. It's just, there's a hand going to come out of the floor any moment now. There's going to be something appearing through the window any moment. You have that silence. That is what the subconscious, unconscious ones are about. And in 12, he gives us the key. He says, if you want to control these vrittis, if you want to deal with them, he says, Abhyasa vairagya bhyam tannirodha. Abhyasa vairagya. These are the twin wings on which you can overcome it. Because abhyasa is the effort you make, the practice, the observance, the conscious effort, self-effort, which is made as the abhyasa. The vairagya is the detachment, the non-attachment. It is the objectivity you bring in. It is the letting go. Abhyasa is the push, vairagya is the letting go. The message of the Bhagavad Gita, do your best, leave the rest. Abhyasa is the do your best part. Vairagya is the leave the rest part. And both have to be there in balance. Most people are good at leaving the rest. They forget the first part. You have to do your best. You do your best, but then to be able to take your foot off the accelerator at the right moment. Otherwise, you just go over the cliff. Abhyasa is then described by Patanjali in 13 and 14 in a very beautiful manner. He says, Tattva stitau yatno vyasaha. He says, steadiness of effort is what abhyasa is. Steadiness, stitau, steadiness of effort. It's not just effort, but steady effort. And in 14 he describes it beautifully. He says, this should be dirgha kala, for a long time. Dirgha means long or expanded, as in dirgha pranayama where you do deep breathing. Dirgha kala, for a long time, nairantarya, uninterrupted. So the first one is abhyasa is steady effort that is now over a long period of time. Dirgha kala, nairantarya, without break, uninterrupted. Satkara, for me this is the most essential quality. It should be with a higher aspiration. Satkara, sat, towards that highest truth, the highest reality. You are aspiring for the highest. That is why you are doing it. Now there are many stories in Indian scriptures of asuras, the demons who did great penance. But why did they do penance? Because they wanted powers so that they can rule somebody, kill someone, take over heaven. It was not satkara. So it is not abhyasa. Because if your effort is not based on a higher aspiration, it is not abhyasa anymore. And then he says, adara is firm foundation. No, adara is more like, could I call it expanse? With expansion. Ase without to do it, based on a firm foundation, dhrida bhumi. Dhrida means firm. It's like, when we do tomorrow morning we'll do that. The side flank posture, where you lie on the side and you do a bit of the leg lifting or the head lifting in the Loma Viloma sequence. I thought tomorrow we'll work with a bit of that. Because we have smaller group, I think we'll be able to manage a bit of that. And if we have you all here and adjust, I think we'll be able to get through something which is a sequence which I feel would be very nice to do. Dhrida is to be on the side and to be firm. Firmly established on the side. That is why it's called Dhridasana. But Dhrida Bhumi here means firm foundation. So your effort is steady, a steady effort made over a long period of time without interruption, with a higher aspiration and expanded and based on a firm foundation. When all of these come together, it is abhyasa. I will do it today but not tomorrow. 5 minutes, but then maybe not. Today 2 hours, tomorrow none. Maybe after 6 months I'll try, and it's not abhyasa anymore. It's a very, very important concept to understand. Abhyasa is not just doing something once in a while. And that is why Amma's definition of abhyasa, repetition, regularity, rhythm, that comes in the 3 R's. Rhythm, repetition and regularity. Very beautiful mantra to keep in mind with effort when we talk about it, abhyasa. And he says, Vairagya is when drishtanu things that you can see and hear, your sensory perception, vishaya vitrashnasya, to be able to detach from them, vashikara samya, where you have mastery based on a higher intelligence. That is Vairagya. when with a higher intelligence, you have the mastery over your senses and are able to detach from that which you hear and see. That is Vairagya. Now, what is Vairagya? It's nothing but objectivity. Because what happens is that we as a human being have a tendency that when we are attached to something, we become subjective. The moment you become subjective, you're not objective anymore. And if you're not objective, you really do not know what you are doing anymore. I think one of the biggest challenges I have had is trying to keep my mouth shut when my children have any health related issues. Because I end up misdiagnosing the highest possible, greatest possible diseases when none exist. And this subjectivity that comes in from the attachment, I remember carrying my daughter in when she was 1 month old. And I'm like, she must have a congenital dislocation of the hip. Because one of her thigh creases is a bit different than the other. And my pediatrics professor just looked at me and laughed and he said, how did you ever get a gold medal in medicine? He said, what happened to you? And I'm like, sorry sir, but it's my daughter. Huh? That's why nowadays Amma doesn't take me seriously when I say, something's wrong there. She's like, keep quiet. I don't trust your diagnosis anymore. This can be crazy. It can go both ways. Because of attachment, either you neglect something, thinking that it's not that. I've had so many of those experiences. Or, both extremes can happen. Objectivity is the key principle of science. And yoga is a science. And that is why Patanjali says objectivity, Vairagya, is essential. While you are experiencing yoga, at the same time you have to be objective. Am I progressing or not? You have to be objective. And to be objective, you have to detach yourself. Look at yourself as if somebody else is looking at you. Now it's not schizophrenia, okay? It's not dual personality, this sort of thing. It is to be able to look at yourself as if somebody else looks at you, without attachment. And this is why it's good to have a few people who think you are their enemy. It's not good to have enemies, but it's good to have people who think you are the enemy. And there's a difference there. Because they really help you with objectivity. They're going to tell you where your warts are, they're going to tell you your bad hair days, and they're going to tell you when you're doing something wrong, and they're going to be happy to tell you that. And when they're happy to tell you, thank them. They are a manifestation of the Guru Spirit, because they are helping you with the objectivity part, Vairagya part. And in those moments you say, okay, fine, maybe I should take a look at myself. Maybe I need to have a second opinion. And I have a very wonderful lady like that in Pondicherry who constantly is after me and telling everybody how bad I am and how I know nothing and I'm the biggest fake on earth and unqualified yogi and oh my God, it's beautiful. And it's very good because she has given me a perspective which nobody else gives me. And that enables me to look at myself and say, okay, how can I work on this? Rather than say, oh, she's wrong. No, okay, fine. Her perspective gives me a new dimension. It is like when you eat, you should not just have sweet, okay? There should be sour, there should be bitter, there should be astringent. And that gives you health. If people are just saying, yes, Ananda, you're good, you're not going to grow. Someone has to say, look at that idiot. And then you say, okay, fine, yeah, okay, maybe that is a perspective. Now, you don't have to take it. I'm not saying you have to accept it. But by opening yourself to such a perspective, you enhance your objectivity about what you are doing and what's happening to you. Now, this happens not too easily. And that is why Patanjali says Abhyasa and Vairagya. He says an ability to detach oneself, to be objective at all times in one's effort. So you are making the effort, but you are objective at the same time. You are not so caught up in, they talk about shooting the bull's eye and going all the way through it and killing 10 people who are standing behind it. Not that type of effort. You make the effort exactly as it is needed. It is like having a regulatory system. It is like having a feedback mechanism. Your body has feedback mechanisms. When there's too much of thyroid hormone, there's a feedback that goes back to the thyroid, to the pituitary, to the hypothalamus and higher centers, saying there's too much of thyroid, stop secreting so much. And if there's less thyroid, there's a signal that goes back saying, please secrete a bit more. Your body has it. Your physiology has it. What he is telling is, get it into your consciousness. Start to understand, what is my effort? Am I overshooting the mark? Am I on the right path? What am I doing? Is this correct? Is it within the path? Is this going to enable growth for me and others around me? Have an objective perspective. I'm just going to do it because I want to do it and to hell with you. No. You find a lot of people like that. My practice, my practice, my practice. And you kill everybody around you. No. The best ones are the ones who are, I'm going to kill you to show you how non-violent I am. I love those people. Beautiful, they're just so, I'm going to show you how non-violent I am, and there's no objectivity there. So they don't even know that how violent they are in trying to show you how non-violent they are. You're like, wow, great, beautiful. You need to have that. And that is why both are required, effort as well as objectivity. And he says, if that is there, the highest, he says, Tatparam Purushakyate Guna Vaitrishyam. That at that highest point, and this is a clue he gives to a verse that comes much later, when that point comes where you are face to face with Kaivalya, to be able to say, thy will be done, and to lose even the attachment, the aspiration for the highest, it is at that point the highest occurs. Up to that point, it's like, I want Kaivalya, I can get you to a certain point, but then you should be ready to even not want Kaivalya anymore, and then Kaivalya happens. It's a very beautiful point. And Patanjali, all of these aspects of yoga are states of being, states of existence where you are just being what you are at that point. Asana then happens. Pranayama then happens. Asana is not something you do. There's a point where you do, but then all of these sutras you find with Patanjali, it's like there's a point you do, there's that effort, and then you sort of let go, and then asana happens. Kaivalya happens. But you need that point. It's not that you sit where you are and saying, I'm not going to do anything. Leave the rest. No. Do your best is the first part. Abhyasa, Vairagya. Spanda, Nishpanda. Activation, deactivation. Effort, relaxation. I remember down in Sydney, going with a friend of mine to one of the nearby hills, and they had all these guys and girls with the paragliders. Gliders. Running off the edge of the hill, and then they take off. And it reminds me of this Abhyasa Vairagya. Because you run. That running to take off is the effort part. And then you have to let go. You don't keep running. Every time I fly in an aircraft, I think of that a bit. There's like an Abhyasa and then a Vairagya part. But especially that gliding was very much that. You don't keep running and just go nose diving. You just take off. There's a point where you run, and then there's just that point. I often dream of something like that run fast enough that you take off. Float around. We can actually. Abhyasa vairagya abhyam tad nirodha. That's how it stops. We'll just chant these 16 verses one time to close today. Again expressing my appreciation for all of you for being here, because if you were all not here, I would not be here. And if I were not here, I would not be enjoying myself the way I am. Yogano Shasanam Yogaha Chittavritti Nirodha Tadha Drashtuh Swarupe Avasthanam Vrittisarupyam Itaratra Vrittayah Panchatayah Kleshta Akleshta Pramana Viparyaya Vikalpa Nidra Smritayah Pratyaksha Anumana Agama Pramanani Viparyayo Mithya Jnanam Atadrupa Pratishtam Shabda Jnananupati Vastu Shunyo Vikalpah Abhava Pratyayalambana Tamovrittir Nidva Anubhuta Vishaya Asampramoshaha Smritihi Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam Tannirodha Tatra stithau Yatno bhyasaha Satu Dhirgakala Nairantarya Satkara Adara Asevito Dridabhumihi Dhrishtanushravika Vishaya Vidkrishnasya Vashikara Samnya Vairagyam Tatparam Purushakyate Guna Vaitvrishnyam We will close with a small arati, chanting the Loka Samasta. We will be meeting in the morning here for the arati, following which we will have the Hatha Yoga session, primarily focusing on the Loma Viloma group to some extent. And we will then be continuing with many other things tomorrow as we go on, and again tomorrow night try to get through a few more of the sutras that are there. One of the good things I have done in the last few years is put out this very nice CD on the chanting, which hopefully it's also available, I think, on the net. And the company told me in 2 weeks they'll have an iPad and iPhone application. So for the newer generations to utilize, I have no idea what that's about yet, but anyway. And it's sort of for me a way of letting the message get to as many as possible in whatever form is required. Om Shiva. Shanti, Shanti.